Today's video is full of surprises, folks. Stay watching. Well, we're out. It's a Saturday, another one in December, and we're back on the loch. I've had one drop run so far. It wasn't a very big fish. I'd set the hooks, it came up, it flipped, and the mackerel tail was probably half the size of it. So, at least there's fish in the area. Loch's very, very high. Very, very high. This jetty has only just went back so you can stand in it. A couple of days ago it was underwater, so there's a lot of water in the system. The tow is very definitely heading towards Enniskillen. Now, if you don't know the way the lochs work here in Northern Ireland, you have the upper, the river, and the lower. Lower flows out at Ballyshannon, out to the sea. Upper is where I'm fishing at the minute. Then you have the river drawing the two of them. But there's a series of gates that open the water and let water out, like Petora. So Petora gates apparently open, and Ballyshannon gates apparently open just to let the water drain out. So with more rain on the way, we're going to have a lot more water on the Erne. But I'm going to have a cup of coffee and maybe have something rather special for breakfast. And I'll see you all later. Well, this is a fucking surprise. White pike fishing here in Lough Erne. And what I've caught, it ain't no pike. I'm going to get him unhooked. And then I'm going to get him. Come on, boy. Come on. Get him yourself. Out of the way here. Calm down, boy. Son. Right. Let me just snap that off. Take a pair of cutters. Get a wee pair of cutters and get this bastard nipped off. Okay, calm down, son, calm down. Right, that's that done. Right, I'll get this in the retainance thing, and I'll get some photos of him later on. And then we'll get him weighed. £11.8. That's a beast of a trout, man. £11.8. That's a beauty, that's a beauty. Let's get it back in. Well, that's a surprise. Not often I catch trout here, let alone catching trout on a big lump of mackerel. But the day is still early, so let's see what else today brings. I also had a little jack pike, but that threw the hooks, so it didn't look that much bigger than the bait itself when it jumped out the water, so I'm kind of glad that it threw the hooks, because little jack pike can be a pain in the backside to unhook. So today has not been so bad. Lough Erne trout. I'll have all the trout anglers kind of tying big feathers that look like mackerel. There's no trout on the Erne, the pike have had them all, and all that sort of nonsense. Maybe you just need to start throwing big humongous baits. But the mist is nice, it hasn't burned off yet. What time is it? It's just gone 12 o'clock. So, I was meant to be making myself some breakfast, but that breakfast might roll into lunch. It's not a bad day. Temperature wise, it's about 6 degrees. Water temperature wise, it's fucking cold. You know, holding that fish till it recovered and till it shot off. Yeah, my hands is a bit numb now, but back to normal. Only fishing with 2 rods, of a 3rd rod made up if I want to put the 3rd rod in, but there's just 2 in at the minute. And I bet if you tell people, I see when I tell people that I catch trout on dead baits, people don't believe me. See when I tell folk that I catch trout throwing jerk baits, like 7-inch squirrely birds and you know, big jerk baits, people don't believe me. So at least one there's now one on camera, so that they can you can argue in the comments about whether I actually caught it or whether it was magic and it never really happened. I'll leave that up to you guys in the comments. There's some visitors there in a boat. You'll see them just going away there. There they are there. Ding! Apparently it's a cross-community thing where they built the boat and they sail the dock. So, fair play. It gets them out on a Sunday or Saturday and Sunday. Ah well, another cup of coffee time I think.
20 minutes later.
I'm going to put a salmon par out. I figure if there's trout in here, they're going to eat that. So let's replace Mr. Perch. As you can see, I fish everything to a clip. That way, if the pike twists, it reduces the tangle. These are good ball bearing swivels. I get these ones from Eddie Turner. His site's linked in the description below. But this is my standard ledger rig. I've went through it before a couple of times, but folk are asking about it. You have your bait on your trace. Trace is anywhere between 18 to 24 inches long, no shorter than 18 inches for bait, unless I'm using an up trace. I have a length of rig tubing. Let me just turn the bait runner off. I have a length of bit of rig tubing. This is on the bottom, so any zebra mussels that's on directly on the bottom, they're going to have a go at that. It also serves two purposes. If the pike wraps up and wraps around itself, you know, lines and braids can cut in, whereas that provides a bit of a cushion. A wee bit of a tangle here. It's my own fault, I'm standing talking to you instead of casting it out. The run rings I use are Catfish Pro. These are a ceramic run ring wrapped in a metal collar, and that's just the length of rod on bottom. That's just the length of old mono. Now if you run your fingers along here, like here, I'm not sure if you can see it, but you'll see nicks on it, and little bits of clips and little bits of nicks, and that's because it's been dragged over zebra mussels. That's a 4-ounce lead, just a standard 4-ounce lead. But this was £10 or £12 mono. That's just what I used to have a lead link. You'll see that the lead link is longer than the trace. This is so when I cast that the baits are going to fly apart. You don't want the lead and the trace to be too close to each other. See? And then we count it down. That's quite shallow there. Just sink the line. Stop the boat guys going through it. I always have my bail arms up. This is a thing that I do because see, it's a violent take and that the drop arm pulls out. The line might wrap around there, and then there's resistance because the pike can't take line. So I always have my bail arms pointing up. This is just a personal thing that I do. It's just to oh, you look at that, my kettle's boiling. But it's just to basically help. So if the pike picks up the bait, there's no resistance, it can take line. Mr. Perch, you can feed something else in there, but it's time for a cup of coffee and maybe. Right, I promised that I would do a review of the pike fishing rods that I use. These are Dave Lum BB 350s. BB stands for Bait Blaster. I had these rods made for myself. This is why I had my name put on them, and the details are underneath. It's Fuji fittings the whole way through, which is awesome. I asked Dave to incorporate a line clip, which is that there, and a hook retaining eye, which is that there. I also asked him to do a full cork handle and do a steel butt cap to protect the bottom of the rod. The reel that's on it is my standard XT EA 10,000 Shimano bait runners. The butt ring is 40mm. There's 6 rings in the rod, down to a 40mm butt ring. This rod, the BB350s are, I can only say that they're excellent rods. You know, Dave Lum definitely knows how to build a rod, and if you have the money and you want a rod that's built how you want it built, then Dave Lum will be able to sort you out. Say you have a favourite football team or rugby team and they use their specific colour. I'm sure Dave can do specific colours on the eyes or the wrappings. If you wanted abbreviated handles, you can do abbreviated handles. He doesn't have to, they're not all cork handles. I like cork because I'm a bit traditional like that. This rod here can easily throw a whole mackerel on a 3-ounce and a 4-ounce lead. Easily throw it to as far as I want it for the fishing. Currently at the minute this is set up with mono. It's set up so it's fishing at a short to medium range. Now I've had fish to mid-20s, in at my feet, thrashing around, and this rod's been sensitive enough not to rip the hooks out of them. However, it has the backbone so that if a fish is heading head first for a snag, this rod has the back. This rod has more than enough backbone to turn the fish and, if necessary, to bully it and drag it away from any sort of snags. It's a 12-foot long, 3.5 pound test curve rod. And again, now I'm not sponsored by Dave Lum. He's not asked me to say anything like this. I just said that I would do a review of the rods that I use. I do have 2 other types of rods from the pike fishing. I have this is the BB350, as I said. I also have a rod that's called the D3. D3 is 13 foot long and it is 4 pound test curve. It is the ultimate in long distance fishing. It's set up exactly the same way as this rod, with the cork handles and the names, the decal, the line clips and the rings for attaching hooks. You know, it's set up exactly the same. It's just the bigger brother to this. I've used these rods now for 2.5, going on 3 seasons. I have not had an issue with them. I have really enjoyed using them. And if you're in the market for some new fishing rods, then speaking to Mr. Lum wouldn't be a bad place to start. I'll put his details in the description below. So there you have it, the review on my my pike fishing rods. I also got asked about why I use braid and why I use mono. Long story short, if I'm casting from the bank, as far as I can physically cast, I class that as to a medium distance. Any further than that, if I'm using a bait boat or a drifter float or anything like that, then I switch to braid. I like the stretch that mono gives me, fishing closer in. You know, mono is it's getting a little bit old-fashioned. Everyone these days seems to use braid only, and braid, it does have its usefulness. However, there is some, you know, downsides to it. There's no stretch, and if you have a fish that's not ready to come to the net and it's close into you, then braid, you know, you have the potential to rip the hooks out of its mouth, whereas mono gives you that little bit of a stretch, that little bit of a cushion. So if a fish does lunge at the last minute, then you're not going to rip the hooks out of its mouth. So that's why I use mono and why I use braid. If I'm fishing like further than I can cast with the bait boat or anything like that, then yes, braid is excellent because you're straight to the fish. You pick up and you strike and you're straight to the fish. There's no stretch. It's excellent at distance. Same when I'm float fishing. You know, braid floats on the surface of the water. So when you see the float disappear, you wind down and you set the hooks and you're straight into the fish. You know, braid is very useful and I do use it. However, these rods at the minute, they are set up for out to medium distance. So I hope that answers the various questions that I've had. If you have any more, then come and ask me in the comments below, or go to the Facebook page. The links are all in the description. So here we are, Lough Erne. You've seen me fishing here before. This is, again, public water. Anyone can fish here. So far today I've had a trout that's crashed the party. Beautiful fish. And I've had one jack pike that's thrown the bait. Incidentally, the jack pike was just a little bit bigger than the bait. So, well, that trout that I caught would quite happily eat that jack pike. So, that's just the nature of the way things are. The mist hasn't burned off at all today. The temperatures are beginning to fall. I just checked the temperature there in the car and it's down to 2 degrees, so the temperature's getting down a bit. But you know, some change in the water. When you used to consider this time last week, this was underwater, and there was waves coming through here that you could probably kayak and surf on. Not sure how long I'll stay. I think I might call it quits at about 3 o'clock. Take a slow drive home. But it's not been a bad day. It's not been a blank. So this is all good. It sucks having then you not catching anything, but got a wee bit of news as well for you guys. This is awesome news. This is amazing news. The blog that I put out where I took little Jake fishing and he caught a 15-pound pike. Well, I entered the pike on his behalf to the Glasgow Angling Centre's Fish of the Week competition, and little Jake won it. So he's won £150 worth of Daiwa fishing gear. So I spoke to the guys at Glasgow Angling Centre and they're going to sort him out with a rod and a reel setup, so the next time he's out he'll be using his own rod and reel and he'll be able to learn on his own stuff. If anything, the tackle voucher will get him started so that he's able to move forward with decent fishing kit. Not that he didn't have decent fishing kit in the first place. He was using my stuff. But you know what it is when you're, especially like when I was a youngster, you didn't want to use your dad's stuff. You wanted to use, you know, your uncle's stuff or your granddad's stuff. You wanted to use your own stuff. You wanted to have your own rod and reel. You wanted to have your own fishing tackle. Well, now the little fella has his own rod and reel, and we'll see how long it takes him to get it christened in, get a pike on it. I'm a very, very proud uncle, put it that way. Oh. Next week is Christmas, so I want to say to all my viewers and subscribers and even the trolls that hate it, Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to you all. Time to call it a day. That freezing fog's not going to be good for me. So I'm going to take a slow drive home. Celebratory whiskey, because it's not very often that you catch double-figured trout when you're out trying to catch pike. So that's tonight's plan. I just got to drive home now. get past the until the next time, troops, tight lines.